Hi, fantasy readers. This is Karyne Norton, your fellow book binger, and you are listening to the Finding Fantasy Reads podcast, where you can test out a new fantasy story every single week to find your next favorite author. With today's episode being the last of the season, we're featuring 4 flash fiction stories from 2 well-known authors and 2 brand new authors. All 4 stories have been published with Havok at some point since its inception. If you're not familiar with Havok, it's a flash fiction publisher that publishes a new flash fiction story every weekday on their website, and then compiles the best each season into an anthology made available in ebook and paperback on retailers. You can read their daily stories for free, or you can pay just $5 a year to access their archives. I love the way they find new talent, but if you dig deep in their archives, you might be surprised at who you can find from their early days. For example, this first story we're featuring is from Morgan L. Busse, who is a writer by day and a mother by night. She's the author of multiple series, including the Ravenwood Saga, Skyworld, and the Nordic Wars. She's a 3-time Christie Award finalist and winner of the InSpy, the Carroll, and the Realm Award in Christian speculative fiction. During her spare time, she enjoys playing games, taking long walks, and dreaming about her next novel. Stick around to the end of the story or check out today's show notes to see where you can find more from Morgan. And make sure you stick around to the end of all the stories to get info on how to vote for this season's favorite episodes so we can celebrate the authors. For now, please enjoy The Balloon Man by Morgan L. Busse. Saturday morning, we all met at the gates of the gloomy Sun Valley amusement park, each with our $20 for the dare. Nearby, at the corner of Dalton and Main, stood the Balloon Man, dressed in his mustard yellow suit and red bow tie, already twisting his first balloon into a dog for the eager kids clamoring around him. He was here every day, as if he didn't realize the amusement park had been closed down and condemned for over 20 years. "Well, are we going to do this?" Richie asked, turning my attention away from the Balloon Man. "Yep, I'm ready." I readjusted my backpack. $100 to outlast the others. I was prepared. Water bottle? Check. Granola bars? Check. Homework? Yeah, I'd packed that too. I wasn't going to completely waste my day. The other 3 nodded. Richie took the money and went first, his wide body barely fitting between the padlocked gates. Sarah went next. Then Philip. Sam glanced at me. I motioned for him to go. I'd bring up the rear. Weeds swallowed the sides of Carnival Row and old food stands. The wooden roller coaster in the back looked like one strong gust would push it over. And to my right, Sarah screamed and jumped to the side. A faded clown statue, with one eye gouged out, the nose broken off, and the red paint peeling from its body, stood by a dilapidated hot dog stand. "That's sick," Richie muttered. "Don't touch him, or you'll contract tetanus." "We need to split up. That's part of the bet," Philip pointed out. "I'll take the left." "I'll go down the middle," Sarah blurted, casting one more glance at the grotesque clown. Sam hurried next. "Water park." Richie also eyed the clown. "I'm going toward the roller coaster. I guess you get the right." I snorted as I studied the clown. Sissies. This would be easy money. Fine by me. As the others headed off, I sat in the middle of Carnival Row and pulled out my math textbook. Might as well get started. An hour later, the first scream split the autumn air. I looked up from my trigonometry homework, unsure if I'd really heard anything. Should I go check? $100. Whoever it was could leave the park. I was staying put. Silence filled the next hour. Then there was a shout. That sounded like Philip. I smirked as I put another piece of lead into my mechanical pencil. I knew Philip would be one of the first to ditch, "Would you like a balloon?" My head snapped up. The Balloon Man stood a couple feet away, his mustard-colored outfit contrasting his ginger hair. Around his waist he wore a fanny pack with long, unused balloons sticking out. This guy had no sense of fashion. I stood and wiped the dust from my clothes, not taking my eyes away from his unnaturally wide smile and stained teeth. I don't really like balloons. I hated when they popped, like bloated blisters. A thought wormed into my mind. How did he get in here? He was bigger than Richie, and Richie barely made it through the gate. Was there another entrance? "Are you sure?" I can twist them into anything you like. As his smile widened even farther, his eyes seemed to point in different directions. He pulled out a long red balloon and started blowing it up. Didn't he hear what I... Wait, what was that? I stared at the red balloon in his hand. For a moment, I thought I saw Philip's reflection along its surface. I glanced over my shoulders. No sign of Philip. You know, he said as he gave the balloon one last twist, I don't like children. I wanted to point out that I was actually a sophomore in high school, but then I swore I saw Sarah's face along the body of the dog he had created. He held the balloon to me, not quite looking at me with his crooked eyes, then pulled something else out of the fanny pack around his waist. The tip of the needle glinted in the sunlight. I shivered, studying the balloon man, who now looked more like an escaped mental patient. He was outside every day, passing out balloon animals to the neighborhood kids. Kids. He said he didn't like kids. Pop. The sound made me jump. Why'd you do that? I asked as he tucked away the pieces of balloon. He grinned at me. I love making balloons pop. Yep, he was bonkers. Just as I turned to pick up my backpack and leave, I saw one more face in the balloon. Richie. No, it was a trick of the light. I reached down and lifted my pack, but a hand grabbed my arm. What a nice balloon you'll make. My backpack fell to the ground. The man seemed to grow larger. Everything seemed to grow larger. My legs and arms pressed down at my sides. Sausage-like appendages turned me around until I stared up into a very large, pock-covered face. Yellow. I like yellow balloons. You'll do nicely. His face drew away from mine, and my body squeezed into a tight space. Dark, hot, damp. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Before I could ponder that, light appeared, and I was lifted back out. I squinted, then caught a glimpse of Sam standing in front of me. Would you like a balloon? A voice said above me. My body started twisting, first my neck, then my waist. Richie. Sarah. Philip. Their reflections in the red balloon. The balloon man held me up seconds later like a trophy. I was just like them, staring out from a surface of rubber. Sam, run! I wanted to yell, but my voice was strangled. I caught the glint of a needle. I could no longer hear their conversation, only the horror as the needle drew near. No, no, don't! Pop. I hope you enjoyed listening to The Balloon Man by Morgan L. Busse. If you want to read more by Morgan, go to her website at morganlbusse.com. I'll also have a direct link in the show notes for her upcoming release, Winter's Dawn, the final book in the Nordic Wars series. You can even snag the first 2 books to read while you're waiting for Winter's Dawn to release. Up next, we have a funny little story that features golf in a fantasy setting. It's written by J.M. Allison, an award-winning author who grew up captivated by the magic and wonder of fairy tales. She finds daily adventure in training her 4 rambunctious younglings and is blessed with an amazing husband who is always ready to say, as you wish, to all her silly ideas. When not creating worlds and characters, she loves indulging other nerdy and creative outlets like teaching musical theater and dance, fighting with lightsabers, sewing, and cosplaying. This story's narrator will be Paeter Frandsen, host of Christian Geek Central. Stick around to the end of the story or check out today's show notes to see where you can find more from the author. For now, please enjoy The Water Hazard on Hole 18 by J.M. Allison.
His father's demeaning taunts proclaiming Jordan would never accomplish anything rang in his ears as he approached Hole 18. It had taken everything to get this far, but he remained in last place. He shook his head and feigned a confidence he didn't feel. "Almost there, Mouse." Jordan slapped his caddy on the back and flashed a carefree smile. "A straight drive down the fairway, flop it over the water hazard onto the green, and an easy final putt. What's the par for 18? Mouse clung to the tattered golf bag. They'd witnessed 2 caddies swallowed by the sand trap on hole 7, and one golfer snatched by the Volkswagen-sized beetles roaming the greens on hole 13. Mouse pulled out Jordan's digital Plexa tablet scorecard with trembling fingers. Green text flickered across the screen. "No par listed for hole 18. Just warnings to avoid the water hazard." Jordan nodded. The Professional Golf Association had designed this year's tournament to be more exciting, and they'd not undersold it. Each hole boasted fantastical hazards designed to push competitors to their limits. "What clubs do we have left?" Jordan studied the fairway before him. The markers noted the green lay over 300 yards away, and a crystal blue lake filled half of that distance. He preferred a 5 or 6 iron for a 150-yard drive, but he'd lost the 5 iron on hole 5, fending off a very angry honey badger, and his 6 iron resembled a mangled pretzel after rescuing Mouse from the clutches of a 6-foot crab residing in the water hazard on hole 14. "Just the sand wedge, a 2 iron, and a putter." Jordan's best option was to take the additional strokes and go around the water hazard, but who knew what lurked in the trees around the lake? The lack of information regarding this hole nagged at him. 4 other golfers should have completed this hole before him. Each golfer's score updated to the Plexa tablet as soon as they completed their strokes, but hole 18 still listed nothing. "Give me the 2 iron." Jordan lined up the shot. Just a light tap. He rotated through his backswing and followed through. His club made contact and sent the little pink ball soaring down the fairway. He held the swing and watched the ball drop exactly where he wanted it, a few feet from the water's edge. He waited and watched, muscles tensed. All was quiet. Jordan's eyes darted from tree to tree as he and Mouse climbed into the battered golf cart. No chatting spectators lined the fairway. Even the birds remained silent as the cart groaned along. The front wheel gave an irregular thwump, thwump, thwump as they drove, arrows protruding from its deflated surface, compliments of the tribal apes rampaging through hole 11. Mouse parked and Jordan jumped out. He crouched by the ball and gazed over the lake. His eyes locked on the small patch of green at the far side with the white triangular flag snapping in the breeze. Jordan took a deep breath and lined up his shot. He swung and sent the ball arcing over the smooth water. He grinned. Whoosh! Water erupted high into the air. A giant purplish-blue tentacle shot from the lake, snatching the golf ball mid-flight. Jordan stumbled backward, barely keeping his feet. A strangled yelp escaped Mouse as the caddy dove behind the golf cart. Jordan's eyes locked onto his ball. The new rules dictated he had 3 minutes to recover his ball and shoot again, or he forfeited this hole. Forfeiting the hole only benefited him if no other competitors managed to complete the hole, but if anyone managed to complete all holes, they'd automatically place above anyone with a forfeited hole. He couldn't afford a forfeiture. He'd take an additional stroke to his score if he used a new ball, but the pickpocketing squirrels on hole 10 had nicked all his spares. He couldn't lose his last ball. Jordan brandished his club. "Give that back!" He flung the club at the tentacle. The club bounced off the creature's hard skin and fell into the lake. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh! Water splashed all around as several more tentacles broke the surface, and a large arrow-shaped head rose from the depths. Jordan shrank back, realization dawning as to why no stats had updated for this hole. No one had managed to get past the kraken. The creature screeched and waved its tentacles. Mouse raced toward him, brandishing the putter, urging Jordan to run for cover. Not pausing to think, Jordan seized Mouse by the collar with one hand and reached for the putter with the other. With a quick, twisting motion, Jordan tossed Mouse into the lake. Mouse squeaked before making a spectacular splash. Fast as lightning, a dark tentacle wrapped around him and hoisted his screaming form into the air. Jordan leapt over the water toward the tentacle, still holding his ball. His free arm and legs locked around the flailing appendage as he swung his club to dislodge his ball. The kraken issued a series of loud clicks and snapped its beak. Its red eyes gleamed. Jordan held on tight as the tentacle flipped back and forth. Mouse continued to flail and scream. As the kraken swung him toward Mouse, Jordan whacked at the tentacle holding his caddy. The kraken released an annoyed bellow, then flung Mouse toward the green. Jordan leapt after Mouse, utilizing the swing of the tentacle to catapult him through the air. A scream, part terror, part exhilaration, ripped from his throat. He hit the grassy green, a jumbled pile of limbs, mangled putter clutched close. Plop! A pink ball dropped in front of him, and he grinned at Mouse. The kraken snapped its beak, then sank beneath the water, sending barely a ripple across the surface. Jordan pushed to his feet and lined up his putt. He grinned at the thought of his father watching the tournament highlights. His ball skittered into the hole. He wouldn't be in last place now.
I hope you enjoyed listening to The Water Hazard on Hole 18 by J.M. Allison, narrated by Paeter Frandsen of Christian Geek Central. If you want to read more by J.M. Allison, sign up for her newsletter to keep up to date on her debut novel's release this December. The Prophet's Curse is a Sleeping Beauty retelling in a Star Wars-style universe. You can find her newsletter on her website at jmallisonauthor.com. Next up, we have another new author whose bittersweet historical fantasy won the Realm Makers Short Fiction Award in 2025, and she's also the new website admin for Finding Fantasy Reads. H.M. Hershberger is a young author with a deep love of fantasy and science fiction. A former missionary kid and something of a world traveler, she's currently somewhere in the time-space continuum working on her latest project. Her stories explore themes like family, redemption, and learning to let go, with a healthy dose of existential crises and planetary wars on the side. You can all be thankful that Hannah came on board because the tasks she's been able to take off my plate have allowed me to get ahead and get some really exciting things going for Season 4. Stick around to the end of her story or check out today's show notes to see where you can find more from Hannah. For now, please enjoy Sparks by H.M. Hershberger. The night air smells like cinnamon and fryer oil from the cart vendors down below. Swing jazz floats on the breeze from the Club 3 shops down. I tap my fingers moodily on the rusty edge of the fire escape. It's Independence Day, but I don't feel much like celebrating. Tomorrow, my brother leaves for war. For as long as I can remember, we've been Davy and Joe, the Baxter twins, the matched set. Chaos on the rocks, shaken, not stirred. The man who delivered the call-up papers looked sorry, but the ruler-straight creases in his pants and the spit-shine buttons of his jacket belied that. He's government, and my folks don't trust old Uncle Sam farther than we can throw him. See, my people are magic. Well, something like that. It's really some sort of subatomic manipulation I can't make hide nor hair of, but magic's a simpler term. Not me, though. I'm about as gifted as a rock. But Davy's got pyro something or other. My idiot twin brother with his snarky lopsided grin, who's only ever used his sparks for fireworks, is being sent off to die. The messenger tried to make a joke about charbroiled Nazis, but it wasn't funny. War's not a funny thing. Tonight marks the last time we'll be in the same place, for who knows how long. I don't know if I'll ever see him again. The Cordell's oldest boy was in Italy. They got a telegram 2 days ago and haven't come out since. The star in their window is gold now. Gold, like Midas's daughter. Dead. I don't want to put a gold star in our window for Davy. I don't want to lose my best friend and other half. I don't want to be just Joanna Baxter, the poor girl whose brother went to war and never came back. Ma's apple cake sits like a stone in my stomach. She scrimped and saved our sugar rations for weeks to make it, to have a treat for Davy's last night. It tasted like ashes instead. The fire escape creaks all of a sudden. You know, Davy drawls from behind me, you're acting like I'm already dead. Feels like it, I mutter. Have a little faith, Joe, he says indignantly. I'm not that clumsy. I snort softly, but don't respond. The lights of the shops that line our street twinkle in the dusk, sending the alley shadows swinging like they're doing the Charleston. He drops beside me, sending the fire escape groaning dangerously. Hey, I'll be fine. I survived the incident of 36, remember? No way old sauerkraut can top that. I shake my head at the memory. How could I forget? You nearly leveled the Polka's shop. Davy grins, lopsided and smirky. Still here, ain't I? You're not getting rid of me that easy. Promise? He holds up his hand solemnly. I'll even pinky swear. You swear to come back, Davy Baxter? I stab my finger into his chest. 'Cause if you don't, I'll come get you myself. Davy snorts. War'd be over in a week if we let you loose on the Crowdies. Davy. Fine, fine. I swear, on pain of being dragged back from Germany by my ear. We link little fingers and shake on it. And don't you forget it, I warn, flicking his nose for emphasis. Davy shakes his head and stands. Geez, what'd I do to get saddled with such a deadbeat sister? Dolt. His eyes sparkle with mischief. You know you love me. I raise an eyebrow and haul myself to my feet. Do I? Yep, he says with another crooked smile. Come on, we're going to the roof. He snags my hand and drags me up towards the top of our apartment building, the ancient stairs threatening to disintegrate the whole way up. The roof is oddly deserted for a holiday, but then the whole building knows that Davy's been called up, so maybe it isn't so strange. The people of 647 Chester Street are good folks. Pushing up the grease-stained sleeves of his tatty work shirt, Davy rubs his hands together like a magician preparing to perform some grand trick. What does a lady request first? He asks with a bow. I roll my eyes and aim a half-hearted kick at his knee. A flower. What type? Rose, petunia, lily? Pick one, I say, chuckling. I don't care. Any'll do. Copper gold sparks erupt from my brother's palms and shoot skywards, falling back to earth in the elegant petals of a lily. They light up the roof with a rich glow, chasing away the shadows and turning the evening rosy. The early stars disappear under the brilliance, and I stand open-mouthed in awe. Davy's an artist every day, but this is something special. Beautiful, I whisper. Yeah? Davy asks with a secretive smile. Watch this. A cascade of sparks leaps from his hands into the night, and I watch transfixed as firebirds flit to and fro and dragons soar past weeping willows. In the sparklight, Davy appears ethereal, a sprite or fairy lad from another world entirely. The music down the street picks up, and he holds out a hand. Dance with me? I take it with a grin, and we bob and weave to the cheerful sound of the trumpet under the light of sparks and stars. I close my eyes and spin, a laugh spilling from my lips with the joy of spending time with my twin. I memorize every sensation. The warm July breeze on my skin, the flap and snap of my skirt, the tune the band plays, the smell of machine oil and the way Davy's chestnut curls dance to their own beat as he spins me round and round. I engrave this moment into my heart, and 2 months later, when we hang that awful golden star in our window, I dance alone to the trumpet's refrain under a sparkless sky and try desperately not to cry. I hope you enjoyed listening to Sparks by H.M. Hershberger, narrated by Karyne Norton. If you want to read more by Hannah, you can sign up for her email list, where she shares monthly book and movie reviews, writing updates, and short stories. I'll have the direct link in the show notes. This last story packs an epic fantasy punch in a tiny package, and the author will be familiar to a lot of you. Steve Rzasa doesn't slay monsters, but he defeats word count goals. He's the author of several dozen novels, novellas, and short stories of science fiction and fantasy, including the award-winning Mercury Hale series. When he's not writing, the former journalist and librarian is reading, or planning the next adventure. Steve's story will be narrated by Paeter Frandsen, host of Christian Geek Central. Stick around to the end of the story or check out today's show notes to see where you can find more from Steve and Paeter. For now, please enjoy Covet Not by Steve Rzasa.
Jagged pumice scraped my palms bloody. The sword loomed above me. I was nearly within reach. Violet lightning reflected off the 4-foot blade. My bearded face stared back at me, distorted by the weapon's bulging middle. Almost there. Haggai! Tashmetu's voice was faint beneath the thunder's rumble. It mingled with the beast's shrieks. Ignore her. I shrugged off the now dead creature's tentacle. Blue sludge mingled with the crimson blood coating my arm. The stench did not stop me, no matter how my stomach heaved. The prize was within reach. My fingers brushed the sword's curved edge. Power surged through my body. Aching muscles, bruised bones, torn flesh. None of them mattered. This was everything I'd sought. Not even the bodies had stopped me. I dug my boot into the mountainside and pushed until my hands wrapped around the hilt. At last. A bellow rose from the beasts below. Tashmetu's anguished scream fought through their cacophony. Let them wail. I needn't fear them. Not with this power in my grasp. I yanked the sword, purple sparks mimicking the lightning flashing around me, scattered across my trousers and boots, burning tiny holes. They stung my skin. I didn't care. A steady hum cocooned me in sound, drowning the noises of the dark landscape below, while filling my head with a steadiness so profound, tears filled my eyes. The blade was mine. I could rend this foul place. I swung the blade around my head, and with a hoarse shout, thrust it straight ahead of me at waist level. It sank deep into the air, as if I'd pierced the hide of yet another beast. Light exploded. I ground my teeth as I wrested the blade up, then down, widening the gash in the universe. Warm air and sweet smells washed over me in waves of pure joy. The landscape beyond brimmed with life. I gazed upon sprawling emerald plains hemmed with rivers. Amber leaves shivered from alabaster branches. A spring breeze carried their fragrance. Haggai, please! I turned at Tashmetu's plea. Singed tentacles roiled where they smashed against her golden shield, its blazing edges as intense as the midday sun. Black hair whirled around her, wild as stampeding horses. Fear contorted her features as she bashed monsters aside. They screamed from gaping, fang-filled maws. You've forgotten everything! Do not let it take me from you! Not like Mixalis! I froze. The sword's hum intensified, but I refused to budge. Tashmetu's warning had pushed aside the visions of victory, replacing them with smaller but stronger pictures. 2 brown-haired boys playing in the same fields I had glimpsed through the rift. Mixalis. Winds rushed around me. I shifted my stance again so they couldn't blow me off the mountain, but when I did, the crunching underfoot felt different. My boot wasn't grinding rock beneath its tread. It instead broke bones in my brother's wrist. Mixalis lay still. His eyes were wide and pale, catching what little light seeped through the endless storm clouds shrouding the desolate landscape. Blue ichor soaked his tunic and dribbled from his steel armor. The severed tentacle I had pushed aside remained wrapped around his neck, fingerprints visible on the swollen hide. My fingerprints. I had strangled him. And for what? The blade hummed until it scraped against my mind. I released it, but it remained wedged between worlds. Haggai! Tashmetu swung at the nearest beast. She missed. Its tentacles wrapped around her midsection. Her cries melted into moans, and her eyes went glassy. Sucking sounds echoed in the chamber as the beast fed. Her life would seep away in minutes. And I had killed my own brother for the strength to rend the walls between universes. I wrenched the blade free. The barrier snapped back into place, waves of power slamming across my body. I would not fail another loved one. The beasts stood in my way, but with the blade in hand, they burst into mist as I cut through their ranks. Blue filth stained me from head to toe. Misshapen bodies and severed tentacles lined my frantic slide down the jagged peak. There was no counting the slain I left in my wake. I glared at each screaming monster as I killed it, desperate to memorize each hideous visage in hopes I could banish Mixalis' tortured face from my mind. So much suffering. Never again. I bottomed out in the valley mere feet from Tashmetu. She had gone deathly pale, but the instant I sliced away her captor's tentacles, color rushed back into golden-brown skin. Tashmetu staggered against me. Please, we must leave this place. It has turned you cold, and me violent. More beasts slithered in from the surrounding ravines, blocking every path of escape. I slit the barrier between worlds again. The blade stuck, having opened a gap big enough for only one. I smiled. Perhaps it was fitting. I had grappled with fate and proved avaricious. I could not return Mixalis, but I could save Tashmetu. My love, I kissed her. Go. She pressed her hand to my chest, leaving its imprint in ichor and blood. I can't leave you. The shrieks battered us. The beasts slithered closer. I could feel their hunger. But I can't let you stay. I broke free and pushed her into the simmering breach. Tashmetu threw her arms wide, mouth forming words I couldn't hear. She stumbled back into a vast seascape of shallow waters and sprawling trees. I picked up her shield. It melted into a tattered, heavy journal with glowing pages. Keep her safe, Tome. I always do. Tome's reedy voice sighed. The sound reassured me that Tashmetu would never be alone. Are you sure? I tossed the mystical book through the gap as the tentacles took me. Searing cold froze my blood and bones. Stinging pain abated, faster than I expected. The rip between worlds vanished right before my vision faded, and my heart stopped. Brother, wait for me.
I hope you enjoyed listening to Covet Not by Steve Rzasa, narrated by Paeter Frandsen of Christian Geek Central. If you want to read more by Steve, you can find more of his books on his website at steverzasa.com. You'll especially want to check out his anthology, Tangents, which includes Covet Not, among other collected tales from the Interstice story universe. I'll have a direct link for it in the show notes. If you enjoyed listening to Paeter narrate Covet Not and The Water Hazard on Hole 18, you might also enjoy listening to his audio dramas at spiritblade.com or his podcast, Christian Geek Central, where he discusses movies, video games, and all things enjoyed by self-proclaimed geeks from a Christian worldview. Before we say farewell for Season 3, this is your chance to vote for your favorite episodes. I'm going to leave the voting open for 2 weeks instead of 1 this time to make sure I catch all of you stragglers, And then on June 30th, I'll release a bonus episode announcing the winners. In addition to the most played and Narrator's Choice Awards that I assign, we have Listener's Choice Awards divided out into a handful of genre categories, and that's where we need your votes. So go to findingfantasyreads.com/vote and pick your favorite stories of the season so we can honor the authors with awards. And of course, there's still a few more days for you to enter our last giveaway of the season, with over a dozen books from past and current featured authors. Go to findingfantasyreads.com/giveaway to enter before the end of the month. As always, I will have links for all of the sites I've mentioned in the show notes, and there were a lot this time. I hope you all have a wonderful summer season, or winter if you're on the other side of the equator. I'll be doing my best to survive 110-degree temperatures by throwing all my kids in the pool or escaping to my in-laws' cabin. Make sure to check back in for the start of Season 4 on August 4th. Thank you all for listening, and happy reading.